Hi ladies, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaka Amano and I'm an etiquette and lifestyle educator. Today I wanted to do a Q&A type video. So I asked you guys to send in your questions, and I also included some frequently asked questions that I get on my platforms. So I just have a list of them right here. And we're just going to go through some of them because they're a lot and because I kind of want to make this a regular thing, maybe a series if possible. I'm just going to be taking a few of them, and the next time I do this type of video, I'll take the rest, and then we'll just keep taking more questions as we go, okay? Obviously, I will not be doing this video without a glass of wine. And the type of red wine that I'm drinking today is a Merlot. It is characterized by the fact that it is dry and it ranges somewhere between medium to full-bodied. It's also moderate in its acidity and its alcohol content, and it's really soft, it's easy. And it smells really delicious. Okay, so if you're starting out on red wine and you're not going for something sweet, this would be a good option to start with. Okay, so let's go into the questions. The first question is, how do you introduce to people? Well, to be honest, this is a very vague question. Do you mean introduce to people in the strict literal sense, or do you mean like, just link to people up, hook them up in a romantic way? I don't know, but I'm just going to go with the first one, which is like in a literal sense. When introducing to people, one of the things you have to have in mind is that there is a mode in which introductions are conducted. So for instance, if you're introducing your colleague to your boss, right, or to the owner of the company, obviously your colleague in that scenario becomes the lesser person. I'm using the term lesser person in a very liberal sense, and I don't mean it in an offensive way, but then your colleague in that scenario has less authority than your boss or the owner of the company. So in that situation, your colleague is the lesser person. So you introduce the lesser person to the higher person, okay? Your colleague is introduced to your boss. So assuming your colleague is Mr. B and your boss is Mr. A, then you would say, Mr. A, I would like to introduce Mr. B to you, okay? You're introducing the Mr. B to Mr. A. So people who are less in office, people who are less in age, that's people who are younger, then men are also introduced to women, not women introduced to men. Non-officials are introduced to officials. So this is the protocol for introductions. But when you're actually introducing people, you shouldn't give just their names. Try to give a bit of information about each person so that when you leave the two of them alone, they actually have something to talk about. Like, you've kind of given them a bit of stepping stone into a conversation. It's also nice if whatever bit of information that you're given is something that they have in common or something that they share a common interest in. Using the scenario that we just gave, the fact that Mr. B works for Mr. A in so and so department is enough bit of information to give, okay? The next question is, during an in-person conversation, what matters the most, spoken words or body language? Well, to be honest, your words actually just matter about 7%. The rest of it is your body language and your tone and your presentation, like the way that you look. It's quite sad, but it's the truth. So if you want to be if you want to communicate and be sure that you are being heard, then you should pay attention to the other things that you are speaking with aside your words, okay? Should you always return a compliment? Well, you're not required to return a compliment. In fact, I actually think that when you feel the need to respond to a compliment with another compliment, most of the time that second compliment it seems forced because it seems like, oh, I'm just trying to be nice. And if you're being honest with yourself, you're only paying that compliment in return because you feel obligated to do so. Really, all you have to say when you get a compliment is thank you. And that's all. That's enough. Am I obligated to RSVP to every invitation that I receive? Well, it depends. Obviously, in Nigeria, here where we are, not everybody feels the need to send off invitations with the RSVP card. But even when your invitation doesn't come with an RSVP card, it is important to let the person inviting you know if you would be coming or if you won't be able to attend. It's just common courtesy. So with that, I would say yes, it is actually important to RSVP to every invitation that you get. But there are some invitations that are not personalized. There are some invitations that are like targeted at the general public, right? So in that case, you don't have to RSVP. For instance, if someone hands you a flyer to an event and you know that this flyer wasn't crafted with you in mind, there isn't like a guest list or anything of that nature, they're just trying to get as many people to come for the event as possible, then in that case it is not obligational to RSVP for that event. Okay, what is the best way to respond when you have received a gift? Well, the best way to respond or to say thank you after you've received a gift is to actually write a handwritten or a typewritten thank you note or thank you letter. This is because it's more long lasting and the person can keep it for as long as they want, and it's just a reminder for them of how appreciative you were of the gift. Basically, just saying thank you in person is not enough. If you feel like it will be impossible for you to write and post a thank you letter or note, a physical thank you letter or note, it's permissible to send an email because this is the next best formal thing to do. In our day and age, it is not extremely offensive with people you are super duper close to send a text message and say thank you, but we should remember that texts are pretty informal. So it's just best to do the right thing, which is to post a letter or a note. And remember that handwritten is always better than typewritten, okay? And I should actually point out that when you're writing the note or the letter, you have to mention what specific gift that was given to you. And it's also nice to include how you intend to use that gift, okay? This just makes the sender feel more confident that the gift that they gave you is going to be useful to you and that you actually really will enjoy that gift. Okay, this is a very funny question. If you're with someone who passes gas and says, "Excuse me," what's the most gracious way to respond to that? Well, the best way to respond to that is not to respond at all. You can smile or nod to acknowledge the person's words, just to let them know that you heard them. But saying anything further would just, maybe escalate the person's embarrassment or, make them feel a bit more awkward or uncomfortable, okay? So just ignore and move on, all right? But smile. Do it in a very warm and polite way. So the next question is, how do you imbibe etiquette intentionally? Well, the only intentional way to imbibe etiquette is to actually know etiquette. And when you have known the rules of etiquette and good manners, then you can just try every day to practice a few of them. Obviously, you will not be able to practice everything at once, but you can start with the everyday etiquette, maybe rules pertaining to things like conversation or workplace etiquette. You could also try to practice things like dining etiquette every time that you eat, and table manners. So I think it's something that is gradual, but the only thing is to try to be conscious and deliberate and intentional about leaving, because that's the only way that you would remember to uphold some of these rules of courtesy, okay? The next question says, introducing yourself to colleagues. I'm thinking this person is asking how you go about introducing yourself to your colleagues. Well, the way to introduce yourself to colleagues is the same way you introduce yourself to every other person that you meet. So when introducing yourself in a corporate environment, you have to give your full name. Then you should also mention, if you have any, what you would prefer to be called. For instance, if your name is Jessica Okafor, you should introduce yourself as Jessica Okafor and say, but everyone calls me Jess, or I prefer to be called Jess. Okay, so the next question is it rude to be on my phone when in company? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Whenever you're in the company of other people, you have no business looking at your phone. If you have to, you should excuse yourself profoundly. And if you know that you're expecting a call or a very important message, you should inform them ahead of time before the call or the message comes in. But if you forget to do so beforehand, when it comes in, you should excuse yourself, apologize profusely, and step out to take your call if it's a call, or just quickly answer your text if it's a text, and drop your phone once more, then continue with your conversation, okay? The next question is there a specific time frame within which one must return missed calls or respond to messages? Well, yes. Even though obviously these rules are not set in stone, it is considered rude not to return a person's call within 24 hours. If you are unable to meet up with that time frame, be sure to apologize for not returning their call earlier, and if possible, give an explanation, because this kind of just helps the person understand why and not feel like you were neglecting or ignoring them because you feel like they're not important enough to have their calls returned, okay? So I'll be taking just 2 more questions. The next question is it wrong to chew gum in public? Well, it's not wrong to chew gum in public, obviously. It's only rude if you're chewing loudly and obstructively, especially if you're popping your gum or chomping and smacking and chewing in a very mechanical rhythm, like chika, bah, chika, bah. Okay? It's very offensive. The last question is, am I obligated to hold the door open for women when I go out with them? I'm guessing this question comes from a man, and I would say you're not obligated to hold the door open for women when you go out with them. You're obligated to hold the door for anyone when you go out with them. So someone who is very in tune with common courtesy would be sensitive to these little things. So if you're walking with people, or if you're walking with someone, if you happen to get to the door before they do, then you should hold the door back. You don't pass through the door, then hold the door open from inside the room. You should, on the other hand, open the door and let them through the door before yourself, okay? The only exception to this are doors that open inward, not outward. So if the door opens inward, then you should open and step in, then hold the door for them to pass through, okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed this very short Q&A. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments section and let me know if you would want to see another one. If you would, you could also leave your questions in the comments or send them to this email, and I will be sure to answer them in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and share this video with as many people as you possibly can, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!